Good afternoon, Steven Special Podcast viewers. This is Steven, and I'm here today with.
Hi, my name is Chris Gray. I'm the Vice Chair of the Young Republicans of Oregon, and I'm glad to be on your show, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. I met Chris in America Fest 2024. That was a crazy experience. We got to see a lot of cool people, and one thing for sure, we got to see Trump before he took the oath. So I love it. I love it,
It
man.
was it was a great time, and it was my first AmFest, so I was really glad to be in a very joyful mood with Republicans not only taking the presidency, but also the Senate and the House. It was just a celebration of a great victory, and we're going to see more of those victories.
Of course, of course. So, viewers, this is episode 3. Have Chris on the podcast, and I thought that this would be a great opportunity to discuss with him about a lot of issues going on right now. And he is from Oregon, just like our last interview with Tanner Elliott. So, Chris, let me ask you this, man. You being in Oregon, what do you feel is like the what you feel is the main issue that Oregons are, or is it Oregoners or
Oregonians.
Oregonians? Okay. What do you feel like they need some more help with in the legislative side?
God, the problem with narrowing down to one is we have a lot of things happening all at once. So I can answer that in a multi answered way. So, one of the big things right now is for our state, and a big discussion throughout this cycle is the transportation package because we passed a huge budget in 2017 that was supposed to rebuild critical bridges, expand our infrastructure, and we have seen no return on investment. Our infrastructure is not expanding. We don't have increased capacity. Our projects are beyond delayed. One bridge we have on the I 205, Interstate 205, is still under construction, and it's been like that since 2017, where we're not seeing any capacity. We're not seeing major med sparks being delivered. And I believe at this point, it's over, I think, even $1 billion. And correct me if I'm wrong, commenters, but basically a massively behind and over budget bridge at this point. Now we are coming to this question again because our Department of Transportation, ODOT, is requesting more money for because of external factors, which I'll get to that point a little later. And it's trying to increase with a massive increase in the gas tax. They want to increase our gas by 15 cents per gallon. We pay currently to the state of Oregon 40 cents per gallon. And the average price is over $4 a gallon in the state of Oregon. And it's worse if you go into the Portland metro area, where I believe it's over $4.10. And it just expands over that way. They want to increase a 1% sales tax on, or as they're calling it, a privilege tax. It's a privilege to drive. So they want to put 1% charge on a purchase of a used vehicle over $10,000. And for new vehicles, 2%. And this is just the beginning. The most concerning part of this package that I'm greatly concerned about is they want to do a fuel index tax. So to put it in simple terms, they want to automatically increase the gas tax to inflation. So if inflationary prices go up in gas, so does the tax, which means we could, on average, see a 2% increase in gas.
You know, hearing a lot about Oregon, I I have nothing against Oregon. I would love to go. I've seen a lot of pictures about it, but seeing the gas prices and a lot of it. I don't think I can make it in there. To be honest with you, it's
A
a
lot of
beautiful
people
state,
can't.
right? And it's a beautiful state. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's pretty much on my bucket list to go to Oregon, go to a Portland Trailblazers game, and just have a good
Hmm.
time. But man, so let me ask you this: how do you feel you being a Republican in a blue state and in a blue city? I mean, do you feel like it's David and Goliath type of deal, like a fight? You
It
know?
is always a fight in this state because I was on a campaign last cycle where I tried to help get a Republican elected in a Democratic seat. Now, unfortunately, we didn't win, but we put up a hell of a fight.
Hmm.
We knocked every door we could. We performed great marketing campaigns, but it was not our time that time, unfortunately. And it is a battle, but the battle's worth it because we do live in such a beautiful state. When Oregon was in its golden era, as I would call it from my perspective, between the 2000s and uh, halfway through the tens, so right at 2015, it was great to live in Oregon. Taxes were a little high, but we had great infrastructure. We had enough space to get around everywhere. Life was good. But once Portland began having the great influx and we couldn't really build up more, that's when it really became a problem. And then the budgets got expanded more and more. And it's now led to everything's getting taxed so much. It's very, very hard to live here. And we unfortunately just received bad news that one of our biggest employers in our state, Intel, is going to cut jobs. So we're about to see 200, 300 layoffs.
That is just insane to me that Intel, one of the biggest companies in the world, is just laying off that many people. Chris, let me get to one question here: is with Trump, President Trump getting all the stuff that's happening in California right now.
Hmm.
One thing for sure was the EV mandates that California ridiculously passed. Do you feel that President Trump could, in fact, go to Oregon and make things have, or just have more common sense in that state?
Well, I would love Trump, then the president of the United States, to come to Oregon because outside of our metro area, Portland specifically, but Salem too, we are very red because people just think Portland is just a whole entire state. Don't get me wrong, it's our most populous city, it's where vast majority of our commerce is, but Oregon is actually a really large state. We have populations scattered all across our state. It takes 45 minutes to an hour just to get from our capital to Portland. And throughout that area, we have a ton of suburbs. We have a ton of communities, subcities, suburbs. So a lot of the people who work in Portland live all across the state. And it's very common for an Oregonian to drive 45 minutes to go see a relative on the other side of the valley, which the Willamette Valley is the epicenter of where our population is. And I do think we need some investment from Republicans nationally because, in my honest opinion, if we can break through some of the key barriers in our state government and take back either the House or Senate in our state government, that could be a chink in the armor for taking back Oregon. I think Oregon's one, like California, a state that can turn red, but we have to wean ourselves off of a very persuasive public union or public system that is really the main problem. A vast majority of the power in Oregon is controlled by SEIU, which is a very powerful public union. And they have actually passed a law that makes Oregon one of the most radical states in the union because they passed it. We passed a law that will give unemployment benefits to strikers, both public and private sector. So they qualify for uh, unemployment benefits after 2 weeks of striking for, I believe, around 36 weeks, which no state ever has done. Not even Washington, who have passed a similar bill for private sector, and not even New York. So Oregon is very radical. And the only way we're going to break it is we need reinforcements.
Chris, let me ask you this, man. Your Governor
Tina Kotek.
Tina Kotek. What do you feel she's done any good or has any good plans? What's your take?
Well, I can tell you that she is one out of many governor polls, she ranks in the bottom out of public support. And her administration has been filled with controversies. Early in her tenure as governor, our Secretary of State was actually forced to resign due to not disclosing she was an advisor to a marijuana company that she was auditing as her official duties of Secretary of State. So already she started off with a really big black flag of like, what's going on? And she's been having a lot of problems with her image in our state. She comes off as a very progressive woman, which she is. She is very liberal. And she has been, even from liberal sources, been questioned by some of her wife's involvement. She's married to a woman that has brought a lot of controversy. She tried as governor to create the office of the first lady without legislative approval. That's a huge no-no. And she had her wife representing Oregon as first lady of Oregon, or first spouse, because of progressive language. In this is a violation because the legislature did not approve anything. It did not approve any funds, yet she was doing this. And she did receive items from the governor's office, such as new iPad technology. She was even about to get state trooper bodyguard protection. And that got nipped in the bud. I don't believe any ethics really did anything to problem or do anything, but it was a split vote, 50-50. Democrats said nothing wrong. Republicans said she did everything wrong. Very partisan situation. And while she has tried to address situations relating to housing, we have a big housing crisis in Oregon. The problem is she has failed to deliver on core promises. She has only done 33% of the housing projects she has promised to deliver at this point. Now, my information can be a little off at this point, but I do not believe from my conversations with people in the know that she will reach her housing goal. So I have to say I'm not impressed with her performance, and she has been a big proponent of the more radical ideology within our state.
Interesting. See, I come from a red state, red governor, red everything, and but I live in a blue city. I'm just saying. But I cannot think to myself of living in a blue city, well, I'm sorry, blue state under a blue governor at all.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, man. If I was to see President Trump do like a comeback, like he did with the governor of Maine, I believe a couple months ago, for what was it? The men and women's sports battle that
Yes.
they were doing.
Yeah, Title IX situations.
Yes, the Title IX situations. If I can see President Trump doing that to your governor, that would be all over the news.
Well, that's the thing. Trump is actually targeting Oregon as well. We actually have a Title IX investigation going on within our state, as Republicans have called out men and women's sports, which is also a big hot topic in Oregon as well. And I believe, to my knowledge, the Trump administration has made a list of non-compliant states, that are sanctuary states. Oregon is a very strong sanctuary state. We have sanctuary laws since the late 80s. And I believe Trump will come after Oregon due to the fact we are not following his mandates. Governor Kotek is extremely anti Trump, making as many public statements as she can. Our attorney general has joined almost nearly every single lawsuit against the Trump administration. And then Senator Wyden has been very hostile, and he actually got a lot of flack because he was very hostile to RFK Jr. for health secretary.
Wow. Going after even RFK. And the man is trying to make America healthy. I mean,
I
what
love
was there?
RFK Jr. I think his initiatives is a great thing for our nation.
Right. And I don't understand why the Democrats want to pile on and say, no, 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 RFK is horrible and his policy. When we need this, we need to get chemicals out of our foods. We need to really just be healthier. I
I
just don't
couldn't agree
understand.
more.
I don't understand it. So, Chris, another issue or another thing that I saw, which you may know more, is the East Coast or the east part of Oregon is wanting to split away from the west part of
The
Oregon.
Greater Idaho movement.
Greater Idaho, yes. Can you tell me a little bit about that? I mean, you know,
Yeah. So this movement has been around for many years now. Um, Basically, a lot of our ranchers that live in Eastern Oregon, which Oregon is very unique with its geography. We have a great valley, the Willamette Valley, that provides a great quantity of food stuff, a lot of the great beauty, our rainforest area. When you think and see pictures of Portland or Oregon in general, a lot of that does come from Willamette Valley. But after the Cascade Mountain Range, on the east side of our state, we have deserts, plains, like the Great Plains. And that's where a lot of our cattle comes from. It's more sparsely populated, and they're actually very culturally similar to Idaho. And that's why they want to go that way. Oregon is very tough on taxes, with our state being ranked 48th for business friendliness out of the United States and the District of Columbia. And I think it's going to go lower based on current legislative items. But regardless, culturally and tax incentive wise, many Oregonians wish to become part of Idaho. So that way they can feel represented, because many Oregonians, conservatives especially, do not feel represented in the government. And if that would happen, Oregon would lose our only Republican congressman, Cliff Benz, who represents that whole entire region.
mm,
Now, I like the idea that people have the right to choose which state they belong to. The problem is this movement will not succeed just because of two major factors. The first one is you have to have both the Oregon state government and the Idaho state government approve of the secession to another state. So good luck with that with Oregon. Oregon will never give out that tax money and that additional representation in the federal government. The second thing is when it comes to, let's say, somehow Idaho and Oregon come to agreement, Oregon would let go of Eastern Oregon, basically. Now you got to give it to Congress, and you have a major congressional battle where you're giving a red state another seat at the table and depriving a blue state of a congressman or woman. That is a huge battle, and I think only a convention of states would be able to happen to have such a change up. The last time we saw states break apart like this was the Civil War. Great example, North Carolina, South Carolina. And that happened because of external circumstances allowed that breakup to happen. And with Congress and President Lincoln approval.
hmm. See, when I saw the proposed map of the new Idaho, I was like, You guys really want to make it that much geographically weird, you
I
know?
know our state has beautiful borders. I can't
Well,
imagine it. And we even have another secession state that almost happened. Congress almost created the state of Jefferson, which would take Southern Oregon below Bend, which is right in the middle of our state. So imagine half our state below the middle part of our state, all be part of a new state where San Francisco area, Northern California, create a new state called Jefferson. This almost happened, but World War II happened. And there is a movement still down there that wish to create their new state. So we have a lot of people that are not happy with things going on, but there's not enough momentum, even within the secessionist areas, to really have the success of splitting up Oregon.
so Chris, you're also part of the Young Republicans. Am I correct on
That's
that?
that's
Okay,
correct. I am the vice chair.
oh, sure. So, can you tell me just stuff that's because I know last week I spoke to Tanner about the Young Republicans deal, but I don't know if you can give us a little more information about it. I mean, my viewers would love it.
Yes. So we are doing great right now. We had a great recruitment drive earlier this year where we saw our numbers really skyrocketed. And we are growing stronger and we are already discussing now creation of new county parties or county chapters or regional chapters right now because many people are starting to step up to the plate. The one thing that even in the darkness of Oregon, where we are heavily taxed and it's just a absolute one party state, there is a movement in our state that wants to rebuild it. Oregonians are getting more and more fed up with how are things running because when Democrats ran it in the 2000s and the early 10s, things were fine. It wasn't perfect and there was a balance of government where Republicans had a lot of negotiation power and things weren't too radical. Now it's become so radical and our economy is lowering. We're still okay, but I know that we cannot continue on this path. And so the young Republicans have seen more members saying, I need to fix Oregon. I love my state. We want to rebuild it to make Oregon great again. And so what we need to do, and we are doing in our state, is we are recruiting. We're figuring out where we can put our members to the greatest areas to make the greatest impact and find passion. We are working to see what strategies will work. And we're trying to do some new initiatives as well, figuring out how we, the new generation of young Republicans, as figure out how we can perform where Republicans have been lacking in certain areas. We have been working hand in hand with many party members. We have great relations all across the legislature. And there is that spark of hope.
There's always hope. I mean, for one, I would like to give you a suggestion, if anything.
Yes, go ahead.
Have you guys ever figured to go to the inner cities, the inner communities that I mean, frankly, if you won't think that a Republican would go to because it's heavily Democratic, but you never know. You never know.
We have been trying in areas where we wouldn't expect success. I know in a lot of heavy Democrat areas, this is a big thing with Oregon Republicans in these big blue areas. They're afraid. They they like to hide in plain sight. Even friends I know very well who are diehard Republicans, they just try to be as professional as possible and say, I don't want to out myself. I don't want to sacrifice my friendships. I know they're on the left, so I'm just not going to bring it up. But now that's changing because we're seeing that it's just not working out, and more people are coming out and saying, "Yeah, I'm a Republican. So what? I like what Trump's doing. I'm not happy with my taxes going away, and Oregon is not being livable again." So, one thing that is working from my experience is talking with people, young professionals in blue areas, and hear them out. And then they realize they're Republican. And we are exploring ideas of going to certain groups and areas that weren't an area that we expect it to be. And it's all experimentation in the end.
Of course. See, last week I did mention that I was with the RNHA, the Republican National Hispanic Assembly.
Hmm.
One of my pet projects is to go to these inner city communities, figure out what's troubling them, what Republicans can do to make their lives at least a little bit easier. And for one, you know, have that just communication with somebody about it. I mean, frankly, they just listen to all the mainstream media and they just don't want to dive into studying what the mainstream media is pushing, so they
Hmm.
just believe it. I think it's beneficial for us to go to that route. Now, I will say this: offering somebody food is the quickest way to get people to really listen to you. You know,
Oh, yeah. My family
um,
has a saying, and it's always worked: food is love. So the more you feed people, the more you love them.
of course, and that's I'm pushing for that here in Arkansas. Especially, I have my dad's restaurant here in Northwest Arkansas. You know, if I can just have a sit down with somebody, talk about politics, we may not even agree. We may not. But if any, I don't want to be fighting. I don't want to be like, well, no, you're horrible. No, I'm, back and forth. Food, I think, diffuses the tension and it can lead to a lot of progress and a lot of growth.
I agree. So I do fully agree with that. And one way that we showed our love and support was in a campaign I was a part of. We brought food items. We did ice cream as reward after hard work to volunteers to show that, hey, we appreciate you. And we even hosted at parks and just gave out free ice cream. So in the end, we have tried that, and that does work. And I think the big thing is, and this is coming from a blue state perspective, we don't like to project our politics, especially as Republicans. But I think you don't need to wear a MAGA hat, but you don't need to be afraid to say, yeah, I'm a Republican. Because in the end, the reason why I think we're not doing as well compared to other states going for the Republican side is because we're a little afraid due to what we see in Portland. And I don't think that's acceptable anymore. I think we need to make sure that law enforcement in our state goes after these acts of terrorism because that's what it is. The definition of terrorism is violence through political means to promote your political objective. So I would definitely say Antifa is a terrorist organization by definition. And in order for us to do our job well, we need to no longer be afraid of Antifa, which is a hard thing to do. They're willing to be violent. So they need to be police. But in the end, the only way we're really going to win Oregon is Republicans supporting Republicans. Whether you are even, we don't have the luxury to be Puritans on one side or another in Oregon. You have to work with whatever Republican. If you're a MAGA supporter, you have to work with maybe a Bushite, or you have to work with a more centrist Republican. Maybe you have to work with libertarian Republicans. So in the end, you got to figure out a way for Oregonians to unite. And I do believe there are ways for us to unite and hosting socials, being part of the community, and just being not afraid. There are areas in Oregon. I actually live in a county that is actually red, and it's close to Portland, surprisingly enough. And they support Republicans. They help Republicans where they can. and they built a good culture. Now they need to expand it more to get better victories, but it's a red county. Red city or red county commissioners. They have state representatives that are red representing them in the state legislature, and they have a state senator that is a Republican as well. And that's because they built the infrastructure, support, and needs for them. And I think because a separation of business and politics, a lot of business Republicans are not bridging and meeting up together.
Yes, we need to meet up more and do everything we can as a unity, as a union. So, to my viewers, if anybody's from Oregon wants to get more involved into politics, contact this man right now. Viewers, hit this man up on Instagram, X, whatever you can. Get involved with the Oregon Young Republicans. We need to have everyone on board for 2026 and 2028. You know, we need an army. We need an army of people to vote. So I don't know if there's a strong Hispanic community in Oregon or what. You're the expert.
Mhm. There are definitely Hispanic communities, and they are very strong in certain areas. And we actually, our former Congresswoman, but now the Secretary of Labor, Lori Chavez DeRemer, Hispanic former Congresswoman, really emphasized well with the Hispanic community. And we had a very strong woman, Tracy Kramer, former state representative, that represented a strong Hispanic community. Now, whatever you want to say, and I have questions about certain actions that our elections have with mail in voting. We are a mail in voting state, which is actually being sued by Judicial Watch right now, an ongoing trial that's just started. And we'll see what happens of that case. But this is one thing I want to emphasize. If any state is considering mail in voting, be careful because Oregon's been true mail-in voting since 2000. And Tracy Kramer was leading on election night and 1 week after election. But the second week of election, she lost her seat by around 300 votes as the counting officially concluded. So we have not only 1 month of voting in our state, you can receive your ballot 2 weeks, even 3 weeks before election. You receive your ballot in October. You can mail it in anytime as long as it's postmarked on election day. So meaning as long as it's postmarked, they can take as long time. They don't even, I believe, certify an election until December in the state of Oregon. Fully. Every vote's counted at that point. So be careful with mail-in voting. You need very strong rules. Oregon's a little laissez-faire. And let's say there is nothing wrong with that election. How do you feel as a Republican knowing that your representative won on election night and 2 weeks later she lost? It makes total sense why people would feel like this system is rigged. How could a representative lose her seat by a mere 300 votes? And that deprived a lot of Hispanic Republicans out of a great representative, state representative. I do think we are gaining some advantages with the Hispanic community, but also at the same time, it's a huge battle because most of our representatives that are Hispanic are Democratic. So this is where we have some problems. However, we have great members within the YRO that are Hispanic and that are helping us identify ways to reach out. And we are reviewing our strategy on how we can emphasize better with the Hispanic community.
See, viewers, don't be afraid. If you want to go out and run for public office and you're a Republican, don't be afraid. I mean, what are they going to do? They're going to cancel you? Oh, well, what does Trump say? Fight, fight, fight.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way that we're going to win is we keep fighting. Don't let the negativities, don't let the noise get to you. Just fight. Just fight. So,
Exactly.
Chris, this has been an informative talk. I've learned a whole lot about Oregon. I do want to go to Oregon. So,
Oregon is a lovely state. We just have the unfortunate pleasure of having not the greatest government. Oregon's great for living. We have beautiful mountains, beautiful valley. We are a premier region for wine, and I'm glad to live in wine country myself. And Oregonians, even if we go away, we always have this innate need to return to our home state because we know how great it is. We just need to, we are fighting for it and we're trying to take back Oregon back as hard as we can. And I know we will win. And I think that's coming sooner than later.
sir, you got me at wine country. Do love wine so much.
We have
uh,
renowned Pinot Noirs.
oh boy, might have a good time in Oregon. So, Chris, you're always welcome here in Arkansas. Let me know. I'll hook you up with my dad's restaurant. We'll have a good time over here.
Hey, I'll make sure. I need to come back by your state. It's been a while since we hang out, brother.
Well, brother, man, I thank you so much. My viewers, thank you so much. And again, I will put Chris's information, his socials, all that kind of stuff in the description. Follow this man. Follow him.
Hey, thank you so much and happy to come on another time soon.
Well, Chris, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.